when the news hits about what my dear sweet friend Ava Miller has been up to. This town will be shocked, to say the least. There must be some mistake, they'll say. She was always so nice, they'll say. She volunteered at the shelter all the time, they'll say. They'll say she was always so giving. They'll say that she was in Beta Club, Golden Key, and in time. They'll say they always suspected something. No one's that nice, they'll say, in whispers at first and in years to come at full volume. We should have seen it coming, they'll say. It was all so obvious in hindsight. They'll reevaluate every word they ever heard her utter, every wink, every nod, every smile, and my girl Ava, she's a smiler. It only takes a second to smile, she always says. You could change someone's whole outlook with a smile. So how did our dear sweet Ava come to such a low state? What would push a girl of such promise, very nearly valedictorian of her high school and summa cum laude college graduate, to such depraved depths? How did a small-town sweetheart turn to murder? She wanted something. Something she didn't think that she can get for herself. Nothing important in the grand scheme of things. Some trivial, but she didn't think so. So she struck a deal. She made a pact with someone whom she never should have trusted. Thought she made herself quite the bargain. She fancied herself clever. Was it a mobster, perhaps, from her small town? Not a chance. Perhaps then she made a deal with a demon, except that she didn't, cliché that it would have been. No. Young Americans grow up with stories about dangers of dealing with demons, but you Americans you just don't hear stories about fairies. Oh, when you do, you get bowdlerized versions, neutered versions, tales where the fae are pleasant, helpful little pixies, delightful, mischievous at worst. Our dear Ava, she never learns to associate fairy tales with lessons harshly learned. Little wonder then that when she stumbled across an old tree in the woods bearing a small sign labeled Wishes, with 2 worn handprints beneath and hanging beside another sign with the words inscribed in a fancied script, Place your hands here. Count to 10. Let the fairies take your worries away. Her instinct is not to run home as fast as her legs could carry her. No. Dear, sweet, innocent girl that she is, she smiles. She laughs a little. She places her hands on the board and counts to 10. How does she expect it to work? Not at all. And if she does, she expects perhaps Tinkerbell or some Keebler elves. She does not expect a man tall and slender and dashingly handsome. What is it? What is your wish? He asks her. She is disarmed by his charms, as all women not warned against his type are. She asks where he came from. From the land of fairies, naturally. She laughs. She asks if he's some kind of fairy. No, not just some kind, he tells her with a grin. Now tell me, child, what is your desire? She laughs again. She says the first whim to spring to her head. He looks deep into her eyes, and she's transfixed in place. She trembles. I did not ask what you want, he says. I asked, what is it you desire? She doesn't know why, but she looks deep within herself and finds that wish buried so deep beneath years of denial and pragmatism that had anyone else asked her, she would have laughed it off and believed herself when she did. Her breath catches, and it's all she can do to whisper it. He smiles and nods. He says, I can give you this, but what will you give me? Oh, she is sweet. innocent. She says what they always say. She says she doesn't have much money, material things. That is what she thinks interests him. 24 hours, he counteroffers. She doesn't understand. 24 hours to do with your body as I wish. Well, she thinks he means sex. They always think he means sex. He reassures her that he will do nothing with her body that she has not already fantasized about doing. She hesitates, but she is tempted. Those deepest, darkest desires are powerful indeed. If I'm doing something that you disapprove of, you need only tell me to stop. And I will. Just 24 hours with him, and she could have her greatest desire. This wasn't so bad a trade, and he was handsome, and she could give herself to him. What is one day, she asked herself. She thinks there are worse ways to get what she wants, and our Ava, she doesn't know any better. She agrees. She wonders when her 24 hours will start. Tonight, he tells her, now go and rest. You'll need it for what I have in mind for your body. She goes home, but she cannot rest. She's anxious. She's never done anything like this before. She doesn't want to disappoint him. She would hate to give him 24 hours of her life to be used as he pleases, and he decides not to honor their bargain. She does her best to dress sexily. She waits for him, but he does not come. He does not call. Until midnight she waits, and though she doesn't mean to, she falls asleep on her couch. Her sleep is dreamless and unsatisfying. She wakes in her bed. She wears her pajamas, not what she fell asleep in. In fact, she cannot find the clothes she fell asleep in. They're nowhere to be found in her apartment. She's unsettled. Did the gentleman come to her after all? Did he use her in her sleep? She's very tired. Her body is sore. Had he drugged her? Where is he now? She looks at her watch and sees it's a little after 9 in the morning. If he came to her at midnight, he still has 15 hours to do with her as he pleases. Will she be awake for it? She showers and dresses for work. Her car is low on gas. She thought she'd filled her tank not too long ago. The truth is, she did fill her tank last week. The truth is, last night while she slept, he used her body. He took her body, and with her fingers he texted the man who assaulted her friend in high school. With her hands and feet, he drove her out to the lake house, where the text message told the man to meet her. And with her body, he teased him. With her mouth, he convinced him to stand against the wall, to let him bind the man with her hands and strong rope. With her hands, he castrated him and left him to bleed to death where no one else would hear him scream. Just as she had fantasized about doing so many times since he did what he did. She does not know any of this. She goes about her day. Even so, she keeps looking over her shoulder. She tells herself that it's because she fears the gentleman fairy will come for her, that he'll drug her. But she's not convinced, not entirely. There's a wrongness about the day, and she can feel it. Time seems to skip ahead. Not in great spurts, just in pieces. A minute here, a few seconds there. Each time an awkward lurch, just the strange sensation that a negligible bit of time has suddenly vanished. Her coworker becomes violently ill after lunch. Food poisoning. She's rushed to the hospital where her boss tells the office later they had to pump her stomach. Something in her food. She does not know that for 2 minutes and 30 seconds, he used her body to add something to the coworker's lunch. She'd taken Ava's lunch a couple of times, and Ava had fantasized about slipping something into her food to teach her a lesson. Ava does not know this has happened. Still, she worries that she's beginning to suspect something is amiss. In her phone, she sees that she texted the man last night after she fell asleep. She sees the lake house in her recent place in Google Maps. She tells her boss that she's not feeling well, must be something going around. She drives home and locks herself in her apartment, determined to wait out the rest of the day. Our poor sweet little Ava. She tells her friend that she has a strange request. She tells her friend not to ask any questions. She needs her friend to come in the morning to uncuff her. She handcuffs herself to her toilet and kicks the key away. The gentleman will not use her body for any more mischief. The rest of the day passes uncomfortably, but eventfully. She wakes sore, cramped, and cold in her bathroom floor. Ava does not need to wait long for her friend, who dutifully unlocks her. She asks questions, but Ava does not answer. She's not sure what she would say. She's not sure what she even knows. She breathes a sigh of relief. The 24 hours have passed. She is safe. At least, she hopes she's safe. She may be rid of the gentleman fairy, but she still will likely face consequences for anything that may have happened. Our dear, sweet, terrified Ava Miller goes to her desk, and her boss waits for her. He says someone noticed her messing with her coworker's food yesterday. He's curious. Why would she do that? He asks her in a way that is not at all asking if she knows what happened. She's standing in the parking lot, her right hand sore, her things still in a box on her hood. She doesn't know how she got there. She doesn't know that she hit her boss in the face and that it felt like she always imagined it would. She begins to drive home as she turns onto the street. She sees police cars parked in front of her building. Poor little Ava. She does not dare stop. She keeps driving. She's 3 blocks away and she does not remember what just happened. She's afraid to look in the rearview mirror. She's terrified of what she'll see if she does. She doesn't know what happened during these blackouts, but she's beginning to develop a theory, a clear pattern of circumstantial evidence whose sum total is something a bit more conclusive. Our Ava was very bright. She finds a motel to lay low until she can figure it out. She is at the Starlight Motel off Route 44, room 201. She paces the empty room and screams, asking what he wants from her. Angry that he's broken her deal. It's been more than 24 hours, and he still possesses her. She sits at the desk, though she does not recall sitting. She holds the motel's complimentary pen in her hand, though she does not recall picking it up. There is a note on the stationery that she does not recall writing. It says, "I never told you 24 hours were consecutive, nor did you make that stipulation when we made our bargain." Ava shouts more questions, but nothing else happens. She tries to do math in the back of the note, totaling all her missing time that he's had her for somewhere between 4 and 9 hours, depending on how long he controlled her the first night when she thought she slept. She wonders what other horrors that he might commit in that time left. But Ava is a clever girl. With all her awards and honor societies, she knows she can find a way out of this. She fills the bathtub, she plugs in the hairdryer, she climbs in, she lets the blow dryer drop in with a splash. She expects to be electrocuted, to die, to be rid of the gentleman fairy. But instead, nothing. She looks. The blow dryer's unplugged and wet footprints move across the floor from the tub to the sink and back. Of course he won't let her out so easily. How long did that take? 5 seconds? 10? Not long at all. Barely a dent in the time that she owes him. How many minutes are in a day? How many seconds? She's standing. She doesn't recall getting up. She looks down. A woman lies dead in the bathtub. The hairdryer rests at the bottom. Ava recognizes her from college. Aside from the one brief moment of frustration, she never bore this woman any at all ill will. She paces the room anxiously. What is happening? How did that woman get here? How much time had she lost? She hears a knocking on the door. Time lurches forward again. Ava's horrified. A deep crimson stains the bed. A body lies motionless on it. Her hands are wet and sticky with blood. On the wall, she's written a confession to 5 murders in the last few days, including directions to a lake house where they will find a man castrated and dead. She never imagined herself a violent person, yet here she is. She can vividly recall her hate-filled revenge fantasies on the man in the lake house. She can remember wishing someone would give that coworker a taste of her own medicine. But what about the woman? What about the woman in the bathtub? How short-lived was her anger with her? How fleeting had whatever violent thought been that led her to death here on this night? How many flickers of rage had flashed through her mind in the tiniest of moments, each of which was an invitation to violence for some gruesome fairy? She collapses to the floor in a quivering heap. This is the last thing she will remember before the police arrive. Because, dear Ava, and here I address you, you are clever. I know you're mentioned to the authorities, your blackouts. You'll make a case for insanity, and they'll want to believe it. After all, who would believe dear sweet Ava capable of all this? And perhaps they will believe it for a while, unless they see your search history includes how to fake a fugue state from the night that we met. And of course, the confession here, which I have posted to the internet for all to see. And why do you think I put your name in the story? The hotel, the room number, so they can find you, Ava. Even as I type this out with your hands on your phone, the authorities are on their way. And though I am sure that you're hoping this strange account will convince the police that you are out of your wits, my dear Ava, do not forget that search history. And how insane can a person be if they can write about how insane they are? If anything, this will make them question whether this is all an act. It is, as you are a fan of saying, all very meta. I should like to point out that I have kept my word. Never once while I was in the midst of using your body to commit cruel acts did you tell me to stop. That your mind was nowhere around to be aware, let alone to tell me no, is immaterial. That was not a condition of our bargain. You thought yourself so clever. We fairies are more cunning still. By my accounts, I have 15 hours, 9 minutes, and 32 seconds remaining once I surrender control of your body again. The sleeping pills that we took should keep you from fleeing before the authorities arrive without me having to waste precious seconds controlling you. No, I'm saving some of those hours and minutes and seconds for your trial. When they put us on that stand, I have so many things I'm eager to say under oath. Oh, this town is so full of many delightful secrets. They've been aching to see daylight. I have also set aside 18 seconds for your last words. I'm on pins and needles with anticipations to see how your friends and family will take them. As for the rest, I think even you will be shocked at what can be accomplished 1 second at a time. An inappropriate wink, an ill-timed laugh, a smile every time someone mentions what you've done these last few days. What is it that you like to say? You can change someone's whole outlook with a smile. Hey there kids, it's me, Mrcreepypasta, and I just want to tell you thank you so much for watching, or listening to, or however you happen to get it, tonight's story. If you take a look in the description down below, you're going to find the link back to the author of tonight's story on Reddit, or on creepypasta.com, or their respective website. We don't just get stories from one particular place, we get them from all over, which means that if you have a story you want me to read, you can always send it over to me at mrcreepypasta@gmail.com. And especially if you have a book that you want to be able to promote, to go along with that, send me over a link to that as well, because I'm always down to help promote authors and their books, like you'll see at the beginning of some of the videos. And a very special thank you to everybody on that Patreon, patreon.com/mrcreepypasta, especially Ariel Torres, Jordan Alexander Sanchez, Ken Lando Higuchi, Brianna Van Tine-Janzen, Chompski, TheRedOakShieldVirus, Sindee Barney, Asia, G. Weevil 3, Diana Kraus, Stephen VanHuss, Tristain Pelton, Nico, TheGingerBroz, Dante Rowe, Raphael Rodriguez, Don Meulmeester, Eliminator86, SteampunkSinner, Kaleb Dougal, Sky Harbor, The Homeless Bird 93, Gabrielle Undefined, Bobby Carmen, Liam Newman, Aaron Stormcrow, Bobby Jean Torgan, Dr. Strawberry, The Wormhole, Barbara Macedo, and Vic. Thank you guys so much, and if anyone would like to join them on that list, head over to patreon.com/Mrcreepypasta. Here's hoping that you guys are loving the horror as much as I am. And sweet dreams.